All right, guys, let's get into it. Today's podcast episode 5 is a look back at Paddy Mills' season and a bit of an overview of his time at the Spurs this year and their run into the first round of the playoffs. So we're going to get into it with Benny Black as always.
Yep. So Paddy Mills, he played all 82 games. I think he had the second most minutes for the Spurs this season, behind LaMarcus Aldridge.
I suppose that's really on the back of the injury to Tony Parker and Kawhi Leonard as well. That's allowed him to kind of get in there and cement his position as a starting guard.
Yeah, I think that was one of the bigger problems of their season, the Spurs season, was that Kawhi injury and the stuff surrounding it, all the rest of the drama and having Rudy Gay sort of come back from his Achilles injury, he's not a primary ball handler, so Paddy Mills had to sort of take a lot of the responsibility. And I think he had a pretty good season for.
I think this is the step up season for him in terms of his NBA career, taking on more responsibilities at the point and really driving the team to get to the playoffs with a very difficult season of injuries to their star players and their veteran players, and that in a sense bringing Ginobili back from retirement because of the injury issues that they've had. So Popovich has obviously put his trust in Paddy, and I think I think he delivered. I think that they just met Golden State, as you do. And that was a very tough first round playoffs, but they got there. I think and
I think that they did as well as they kind of could have. Without having Kawhi and Tony Parker to start the season, and then having Rudy Gay come back from injury. They were never the complete outfit to sort of come into the playoffs. And
they weren't going to
have
go
a
deep.
Blinder.
Yeah, they weren't going to go for a deep run, but the fact they got there, I think, is on the back of Paddy and the back of obviously LaMarcus, and that's what you can really say. I mean, it's exciting. It's exciting for the Boomers. I think that he's that veteran player. He's got the experience in the NBA now, and he's going to give us that lift going into the 2019 FIBA World Cup and Tokyo 2020. He's still going to be a big part of it, and just the more minutes in the NBA, giving him more time, is going to really help us as a national basketball team. And helping those young guys that are coming through develop even more in that national squad. But
there's a few young guys in the Spurs team too. Kyle Anderson, Davis Bertans, and DeJounte Murray.
For my mind, DeJounte Murray is probably the pick of the three.
Yeah, and I don't think they were really ready yet for the extended time they got with Kawhi out and the extended time that they had to use Murray. I don't think he's really ready either.
I mean, it's a rarity to get that ability to have those minutes in a really good setup like they have, and it's probably put them in better stead for next year and the years beyond. That now that their team is getting older, again, all up in the air for them. Will Kawhi go? Yeah. Will he stay?
Yep.
Thought process around this potentially is that Celtics trade for Kyrie.
For Kawhi?
Yeah. I'm throwing it out there.
No, I don't think that's...
I'm throwing it out there.
I have no idea. I've tried to get into that Kawhi saga, and I don't understand, what's happening from an organizational level. Obviously, we're not going to get all the information.
No, of course not.
Trying to understand just what is happening, it just is so bizarre that...
Yeah, I think
kind of just went, well, whatever happens at the end of the season, we'll just wait till the end of the season and just see what happens.
July we'll really see. I think a lot of what will come out of that will come out in July. But again, this is about Paddy and
and I mean,
realistically, the style of play that they were playing doesn't suit Paddy at all. I don't think.
No, I think they really missed that extra ball handler, and he had to carry a lot of the load. And LaMarcus Aldridge and Gasol aren't the two best bigs to run pick and roll with, which I think that's where his game really
of course,
excels.
It's coming off the pick and shooting
Even sort of off ball, getting to a spot and then, shooting either from the corner or maybe from the wing. That also, again, requires that extra ball handler, which I don't think they really had this season. So he's had to sort of adjust his game. A lot of sort of dumping it into LaMarcus, trying to run pick and roll with Gasol, but obviously he's 37 and that's, it's always going to be tough.
He looks so slow.
Yeah,
if you think Joe Ingles is slow-mo, Paul Gasol is... You'd wonder how many seasons these guys have got left.
I
think Gasol's retiring. Is he?
No, I'm not sure if he is, but
please retire.
Either way, they re-signed him, so they have to be looking at this team thinking that they've got to make some serious moves in the next couple of years, which I think it will involve Paddy, because I think he's a capable point guard. He's capable of running an offense with an extra star. He's not a star point guard who's going to win games for them.
No, but he's a second ball handler in the team coming off the pick and roll. If they get a decent backup center that can potentially play in that into his strengths, then he's a good scoring option.
Yeah, I think he is too. And I think it was underutilized this season, mainly because he had to kind of run things as well as, deal with how LaMarcus integrates into your offense, which is not much action sort of around the 3-point line or around the elbow. It's mainly sort of just tossing it in, clearing out, and letting LaMarcus go to work in the post, which it doesn't suit Paddy's game at all.
No.
Because he's slightly undersized, that really limits his ability to cut through the lane and get to the line and sort of finish at the rim. So essentially, he wants to be coming off screens and taking shots, wide open shots. And with LaMarcus and Gasol, they're not the two bigs that are going to get you those shots. And I don't think he has the all-round single ability to score. Like, as a scorer, I mean, he's not really a scorer. He's a pass-first point guard who can spot up and shoot assisted threes. And, if you're playing most of the season with a proper post player that's a single sort of ISO scorer, then you're limiting Paddy's ability to play. And obviously, I mean, he's not a superstar, so you're not going to build that team around him. He's kind of going to just fit in the offense.
Of course.
He fits. And I think he had a pretty good season. I'd like to see another, if Kawhi stays, I'd like to still see him bring another ball handler in.
Yeah, and play Paddy more of a shooting option rather than or a potential...
Play him at the point, but be able to sort of run off ball, and run an off ball action on the weak side, or spot up in the corner, or come out off a curl and knock down a shot. Who knows whether they're going to go to that. I think that there's so many sort of options that they can explore there with Kawhi and what they do with Gasol there, that I think just leaving sort of in the wash-up, I think Paddy will just remain there and continue to do what he can do.
He's contracted till 2021.
Yeah.
So
he signed a new deal, I think.
3-year, 2-way contract?
It's $12 million a year, and I think it was for 3 years. He signed it at the back end of last season.
Yeah, he's there till 21.
At the start of this year.
Yeah.
So,
he's part of the next 3 years, and he's potentially going to be on the tail end of the greatness and the beginning of the new in that transition period, really, where if they're going to have to either tank, if they get rid of Kawhi for potentially a pick, then they're going to have to tank to get another pick and start rebuilding from there. Because Ginobili looks like he's going to play next year.
Yeah, well,
Tony Parker's playing next year.
Well, they're both two quality players. They're veterans, but
they're old. They're too old. It's the Dirk Nowitzki, and he's with Dallas and he's playing next year. Like,
unless they sort of accept a bench role and supplement that offense. They've got Davis Bertans. I mean, he ran a fair bit of pick and pop with Bertans, and Bertans is a good shooter. He's got good size. He really came along this year, and but ultimately it'll also depend on what they do with LaMarcus Aldridge. If they, they continue on, they need to get him a little bit leaner, a little bit faster, and sort of get him involved in more pick and roll action where they can get him rolling to the basket more than just standing around in the post trying to put it up.
Definitely. So from a stats percentage, 37% beyond the arc, which is down from 41 on last season. But I think that's just a testament to his primary ball handling and the lack of pick and roll opportunities that he does get in terms of open threes. 47% from the field. He's a great free throw shooter. He just never gets to the line enough. And that, again, is his lack of size and his ability to drive to the basket and not get blocked or draw the foul.
Yeah, I think he's got to work something like that into his game because he's undersized.
He's undersized, but I mean, doesn't stop a Terry Rozier or a TJ McConnell or these guys do have the ability to drive to the basket and either step back and pull up for the J or drive the lane and roll the fingers in. So, but again, he's more of a spot up shooter.
Yeah,
that's just his game, which is you do need in your team anyway. So. Average shot distance from the basket was 20 feet. 60% of his looks were 3 points.
Which says a lot about how they ran their offense.
It's really either dumping into LaMarcus or someone having a shot from the field, realistically. Yeah. So,
or coming off that curl and trying to get wide open, off the weak side because Pop runs a lot of weak side action. I'd expect him to get a lot more looks next season.
Yeah.
And possibly if they up their ball movement or keep the way they play with a lot of ball movement, I expect him to get a few more assists. I mean, he had 2.8 assists this season, which is down, I think, from last season. I think he had 3.5 last season, and this season he had 2.8. So. That tells you a little bit about their ball movement, maybe drying up a little bit this season.
Yeah.
With a LaMarcus buffet, Essentially, it slows your ball movement down.
It does. It's a post-up game, and if he has a good game, you win. If he doesn't, he doesn't. And that's a bit of an issue. It's a team effort. I think that they changed their style a bit. Maybe Popovich... he needs to quicken that team up somehow.
Yeah.
Using his more experienced guys as bench rotation rather than as stability in the team. Best game of the season was against Brooklyn. Off the bench, shooting 7 out of 10, all 3-pointers, 25 points, 2 assists, 3 steals, and +9 on the field.
Yeah, 2 4-point plays as well.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, there's some footage of that on YouTube. We might post the link on that. And, he had a great game. I think that's ultimately, the way you've got to use him is just to get him wide open and get him shooting. But, I mean, that's something you've got to say to a lot of players where unless you can be relied upon to create your own shot or get to the line, I think you really limit your effectiveness. Which is where I think if they sort of restructure their organisation this season and their roster, I really think they could get a bit more out of him this season.
Yeah.
Moving the ball a little bit more, up that assists, get the ball moving a lot more.
Use his lateral speed to a benefit. Get him to the basket a bit more, set those picks. If he's got no one to set picks, it's hard to drive to the basket or even have to, spot up shoot. So definitely a big man he can roll off would be...
Yeah, somebody that's not Pau Gasol, essentially.
Yeah.
As harsh as it is, a 37-year-old veteran forward, if they could somehow flip him for a young guy, a young, good screen setter and somebody who can work a two-man game off. I think he had Davis Bertans. I think he played a good two-man game with this season. But, if they could get that main player in their rotation playing... off a screen and roll game, pick and pop. Because Gasol used to shoot from the field as well. He used to shoot jumpers. He could shoot from outside.
That's where they come out of the game.
I don't think he did a lot of that this season.
No. He was usually just used as that big man option.
So they went to the playoffs. We said that before in the lead up to his season. They went out 4-1 to Golden State, gentleman's sweep. He started all 5 of those games. He played the second most minutes, which was good to see for an Aussie in the playoffs. Played 165 minutes, and LaMarcus only played more for them with 177. When you sort of contrast that with the rotations for Golden State, I think Clay had the most minutes in the series, and that was 201 minutes.
Okay.
So, he played a lot of minutes. That's only 23 minutes.
Yeah.
Less than I would say. Clay as an athlete is probably one of the most robust players in the NBA. So I think giving Patty Mills that kind of responsibility was good to see.
He played well game 4 and 5 for my mind.
He did play well in game 4. Actually, it was LaMarcus eventually who won that game, but in that game 4, he was in 3 and 4. He was quite scrappy in San Antonio, which is obviously how you got to play in playoffs basketball. It's all about grit and grime and fighting it out and making sure you come away with the win. But I think ultimately he was sort of abused a little bit too much for his lack of size.
Yeah,
and hey, Golden State is one of the best teams in the league
of course.
Doing that.
And again, it's one of those things, if they get a few more speedy plays and they can play a fast-moving game, it suits him more.
Yeah,
you
definitely.
play a slow game, it doesn't suit the little man. It suits the big man.
Yeah, definitely.
And it'd be interesting to see how they change tactics with keeping all the same team moving forward to next year with potentially no Kawhi.
Yeah.
And seeing if that is an effective way to do things, because they're probably still a chance playoff team next year as well. When you look at the West, depends. Obviously, the Lakers will be more of a threat next year with Paul George.
Whoever they sign, I think again, like we were saying before, Philly and Boston very early on in a window. I think Lakers have similarly got a window of about 5 years.
Yeah,
where they could, get a little bit better and sort of challenge, But I would. It's Spurs, so I sort of wouldn't look at that franchise and just think to myself, well, it could go either way here. It's the Spurs. You think as an organization they're not gonna.
I don't think they're going to tank,
cripple themselves and tank, or make silly moves. It's the Spurs. Like, for how many years did they make the playoffs? They'd look like they're not had a good season, and then suddenly, the Spurs are in the playoffs again. And it's just how it's been for the last 10 years. And I mean, he shot 43% from the field in the playoffs. He had 25 of 57 field goal attempts, which is serviceable for an offense that doesn't run completely through him. He had 13 from 35 from beyond the arc, 37%. So he shot, his normal sort of percentage, which was pretty serviceable.
Yeah.
He had 12 from 22 from mid range from the rest of the field. So that says that maybe they didn't go to Patty Mills as a mid range option enough, but. Obviously, with his size, he was sort of,
it's hard. You've got to get into space.
Dribbling into some very long players, Durant, Iguodala, and players like that, who ultimately that was their game plan to limit.
Draymond Green had a fantastic series as well. He played out of his socks.
And that was their plan, was to limit Patty Mills. I have a feeling that Steve Kerr would
They went after him, I think.
Said, right, we'll start with that extra forward, small forward in Iggy playing point guard, essentially to nullify what Patty Mills can do, because if Patty Mills gets going, starts hitting threes, then obviously their pace quickens, they play a lot better. So he only shot 5 free throws in the series, which,
again, is just the culmination of the offense style of San Antonio.
But yeah, you kind of want him getting to the line a little bit more because of his size and his quickness. But it was a rough series too, so calls can go either way on that sort of thing. And, it tends to be the longer sort of more athletic players that get those calls as well.
Yeah.
I mean, a small guy like Mills is probably not going to go up strong
50-50.
those calls.
Yeah.
He had 13 assists, which is pretty good. Only Mane, Ginobili, and Pau Gasol had more assists. It's an obvious deficiency in their team.
Is ball movement.
Yeah, because they only had 95 assists for the entire series. And if you look at that on their 173 made baskets, tells a big story of, the LaMarcus buffet.
Yeah.
The Warriors, in contrast, they had 134 assists on 198 field goals.
Yeah.
That tells you a lot about ball movement.
A lot more open. I mean, Clay did go nuts in game 1.
Yeah.
I think he was like 7 from 9 from the... You can't... Yeah. And the Spurs aren't a 3-point team.
Yeah, so I would look at... the way LaMarcus sort of disrupted the ball movement, and even Pau Gasol disrupted the sort of their ability to swing the ball around and, get open looks. It was always going to be a tough sort of series for him to have a significant effect. And he had 9 turnovers as well, which, is not the greatest in the grand scheme of things.
The 13 assists, it's a poor turnover to assist ratio. Yeah. You want to kind of be 1 to 4, 1 to 5 is a good...
But with hands in the passing lane and stage general
and
length,
non-moving forwards. If you're just hoiking up to LaMarcus, it's kind of, you can get tipped or double teamed. It's pretty hard.
So what are we looking at for Patty Mills next season?
I still, again, it really depends on Kawhi Leonard.
Yep.
Kawhi Leonard stays, Patty goes back to his second ball handling role.
Yep.
Probably more effective off the shot, probably coming off the bench a bit more.
Yep. I think they'll look to bring through Murray a little bit more as well.
Yeah.
Sort of stagger their rotations, Patty and Murray as the main ball handler. I think he could, if they can get that ball moving again a little bit more, move away from their post-ups, try to get another forward that they can run a lot of more conventional pick and roll with. I think that would suit him a little bit better, getting his assist numbers up and getting the ball moving a little bit. Parker and Manu, again, that's another sort of, two old veterans. Who knows sort of what... Oh, that dirty... How dirty is that man?
Oh, sorry guys, we're kind of one eye on the Cleveland, Toronto, and LeBron wins it again.
Just hits this game winner. He's filthy, that man. Absolutely filthy.
He's worth every cent.
So I'll probably edit that out, but
yeah, just like
what a pig! What a filthy man. He's just
off the backboard,
running sort of
floating off the backboard. Oh god.
Yeah, so back on Patty Mills.
We'll wrap it up now. Some talking points on next season is Kawhi. Obviously, as we said, see if they move away from a LaMarcus post-up buffet.
Yeah.
Get potentially another ball handler in, or get more minutes out of Parker. That's another thing we probably haven't discussed. Maybe they will get more minutes out of Parker next season as that backup ball handler now that he's taking a bit more of a retiree approach.
Yeah, and bring through some of those young guys.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think you can have another good season. It is the Spurs, and the Spurs always find a way to just regenerate their franchise no matter what.
Yeah.
And Patty's shown that he can be a pretty serviceable point guard in that system. So
definitely. All right. That is the end of our Patty Mills wrap-up for this episode of the podcast. We'll be back next episode to wrap up Delhi and the Thonotron and talk about their season and some of the issues and positives that have come out of that. So peace out, guys.
Take it easy, guys.